What's scarier than a dangerous enemy? A government willing to create one. Imagine a plan to assassinate its own citizens, blow up civilian ships, and stage terrorist attacks on its own soil, only to blame another nation and spark a war? It sounds like a Hollywood thriller, right? But this is a true story. A secret buried for decades under the name Operation Northwoods. To understand how such a shocking plan came to be, we need to rewind to 1962, the height of the Cold War. The world held its breath as the two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, stood face to face. In the Western Hemisphere, a new threat emerged: Fidel Castro. The revolutionary leader of Cuba had openly declared himself a communist. Just 90 miles from Florida shores, the American public could feel the presence of an opposing ideology practically in their backyard. Washington's fear of Soviet influence in Cuba became an obsession. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy tried to topple Castro through the Bay of Pigs invasion. It was a disaster. Over 1,200 CIA-trained Cuban exiles were captured or killed. The failure humiliated Kennedy and fueled anger in the U.S. military. They believed only a full-scale invasion led directly by American forces could remove Castro. At the forefront of this outrage was General Lyman L. Lemnitzer, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. A hardliner, Lemnitzer was convinced that a bold and ruthless strike was necessary, and he was prepared to deliver a plan to persuade the president. By spring 1962, a top-secret document was completed, a plan for pretext operations to justify U.S. military intervention in Cuba. Signed by the entire Joint Chiefs of Staff, it went far beyond normal military strategy. It laid out a series of false flag operations, attacks carried out by U.S. intelligence and military, but staged to blame on Cuba. The pages read like a script of state-sponsored terror. Scenario 1: Civilian killings in Miami. Stage a bombing in a crowded Miami or Washington district. Innocent Americans would die, and planted evidence would implicate Castro's agents. Another proposal: blow up a boat of Cuban refugees, then circulate a fake casualty list to inflame public outrage. Scenario 2: attacks on Guantanamo Bay. Destroy ammunition depots, burn aircraft, even sink a U.S. ship inside Guantanamo Bay, just like the Remember the Maine incident that sparked the Spanish-American War in 1898. All blame would be pinned on Cuba. Scenario 3: air terror. Use drones painted with Cuban markings to simulate airstrikes against U.S. targets, only to be shot down. Even worse, the plan suggested hijacking civilian airliners, replacing passengers with undercover operatives, and staging an attack on U.S. soil. The goal of all this: create public fury so intense that the president would have no choice but to wage all-out war against Cuba. In March 1962, Operation Northwoods was presented to Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara. The Joint Chiefs were ready with every argument to sell the plan. But something unexpected happened. President John F. Kennedy, still scarred by the Bay of Pigs fiasco, saw the plan for what it was: insane and immoral. Despite immense pressure from the military, Kennedy flatly refused. He declared that the U.S. government could never sacrifice its own citizens as an excuse for war. His decision created a rift between civilian leadership and the military. General Lemnitzer was removed from his post as chairman just a year later. Operation Northwoods was sealed away, locked in classified files, seemingly lost to history. Nearly 40 years later, in 1997, the documents were declassified as part of the investigation into Kennedy's assassination. The revelations shocked the public. Many could not believe the U.S. military had ever considered such a plan. The release ignited fierce debates about the ethics of warfare, the power of the military, and the necessity of civilian oversight. It stands as a chilling reminder. In the darkest corners of history, even those sworn to protect the nation can propose the unthinkable. Perhaps we came far closer to a different future than anyone realized, a future where enemies weren't defeated, but manufactured. And that is a secret the world must never forget.